Well, right now, times are tough, and if you're watching this video right about now, the date of this video, well, you understand what I'm talking about. But a lot of times there's things you can do yourself with a little bit of knowledge, and you can save yourself a lot of money and also help you get through these tough times. So what we're doing today is we got a Trailblazer here. This is my own Trailblazer that I drive. It's a 2006. When I'm driving down the highway, it seems like when I get into, the places on the road where the road is a little uneven, it kind of sways a little bit in the front end. It's kind of weird. The steering is tight. I've checked all the steering linkage. I've replaced the sway bar end links on here, and the only thing I haven't done is the ball joints, the upper and lower ball joints. So what we're doing is checking them today. It doesn't take much. It only takes one ball joint that can be just a little loose that will cause that front end to kind of go, when you kind of cross over those uneven places on the highway. That's what we're trying to check today. So a lot of times if you're doing this stuff, you're by yourself, there are some things you can do here to check these ball joints, because usually it's a two-man job. What I do, I'll put a pipe under the tire, and I've got my jack under there right now. I don't have any secure jacks under there, but we'll put those under there later. And you can take a brick and kind of lay it up under there, and what you do, you can kind of lay down here and kind of look up under there and take your leg and just kind of gently push down that, and that'll move this whole ball joint and tie her up and down just like this. Let me get myself kind of situated here, and there's my leg. See, it doesn't take much to push down on that. And now we can go in here and kind of look around. And let's see, there is the bottom ball joint right there. Yeah, I think you can see that. Let's move this tire a little bit. And see, that one looks okay. And the top one looks okay. But, this thing's got 112,000 miles on it now. Original miles, and I guarantee you these have never been changed out. So what we're going to do probably is go ahead and change them out anyway. And if you look right here, you can see the new sway bar end links. Now if you replace these on these Trailblazers, boy, you got to make sure you get these tight. They don't give you any lock washers. If you can get a big lock washer put behind here, I would advise you to do that, but I don't have any here, and I've checked these a couple times. They seem to be staying pretty tight. You can see I can move the tire around a little bit there and staying pretty tight. So there's your tip. And you can see I'm kind of laying here and I'm just moving my leg up and down on that pipe there, and that leverage really helps that tire out. Just make sure before you do this and you get up under here, make sure you have a secure jack under here and also a safety jack. Just do that. So we're going to go ahead and pull this wheel off, and then we're going to take the jack and set it up on the other side and see if we see anything over there on the passenger side that might be loose. So if I don't find anything, I still think it's confident that I go ahead and change out these ball joints because they're pretty old anyway. And just FYI, the ball joints that I have here, I've had these over a year. They've been sitting quite a while, and I always mark everything in boxes because you know how confusing it can get sometimes. You're like, when did I buy that? What is that? Well, I went ahead and marked these. These are up and lower ball joints. They'll fit a 2002 all the way up to 2010, I do believe. So these should work for the 2006. So I already have these kind of on standby. And I believe, including shipping, these were only like 40 bucks on eBay off of a dealer. So you can get some pretty good deals if you can wait a couple of days. And one more little tidbit. Yeah, you can go in here and do the 9 and 3, the 6 and 12. A lot of times you can't see what's going on behind there unless you got another guy. So yeah, I've done this and I really can't feel anything, but nevertheless, we'll check the other side. All right, so on this side, we have the wheel up in the air, and we kind of got the jack under there, and I'll set the camera up here. And right off the bat, before I grab the camera, I want to show you this. On this side, I decided to do the 3 and 9 and 6 and 12. Well, actually, if I do the 6 and 12, hear that? See that? And you can even hear this when I hit it. Hear that? This wheel is actually a little bit loose right here. Now, I don't think it's the ball joint. I think it's actually the wheel bearing itself. We'll pop this cover off and we'll see if we can tighten this nut up a little bit more, but I doubt that's going to help it. But here is why it's swaying a little bit. Hear that? Now let's go to the other side real quick, and I'll leave the camera rolling, and I'll put the wheel back on. And I did the same thing over here. I'm just showing you what I do when I go to check these wheels and stuff. Kind of pinpoint what's going on. And see, this side doesn't do that, doesn't make that noise, and this is tight. So what we'll probably do is try to get this nut here a little bit tighter. So it looks like that's probably our issue. All right, now before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we're going to go ahead and do the old right leg tire check. I'll adjust it here, get my leg there, and we'll bring the camera back up under here, and we'll kind of look at some things here. And I think you can see that ball joint. Let me shake this a little bit. I got the camera set up here about as good as I can get it. Let's shake this tire. The ball joint seems okay, but I can feel this wheel, this bearing. I can feel that little bit of a thump there. So let's go ahead and check this wheel bearing nut and make sure that it's tight. But a lot of times these will get loose. They won't make any noise, and you'll just get play in it and slop until it gets to a point where it starts getting wore down. Then you'll start to hear the noise and all that. So this is just how I'm doing it. So let's go ahead and take that cover off and check that nut. All right, so we got a socket here. This is a 36 mil. Actually, this nut is a 35. This is all I have. So this will have to do, but I got a little paint mark right there and right back there. We'll see if that turns it any. If not, then all we can do is try, right? So well, actually it did turn it, so let's see. No, but I can still feel it's got play in it. It did turn, maybe not even a quarter of a turn, but still, you can still hear that. Yeah, I can still feel it. So we tried, and again, you can just use a breaker bar and a socket. You don't have to have an impact tool like I have, electric one, but hear that now? Yep, there we go. So I guess we'll go ahead and start disassembling this whole hub, and we'll do the other side. I want to still check these ball joints. Just since we're in here, we might as well do it. All right, let's get the tire off. I got my jack kind of up under. Got my jack kind of up under there. Is what I'm trying to say. We might as well just go ahead and take this off. Lazy man's tool. Makes time go by fast when you're using these, or at least the job easier. But yeah, so there's that. So let's go ahead and we'll just start disassembling everything here. No particular order. I have lots of videos on YouTube in a playlist on the Trailblazer, how to do all these, these wheel bearings, brakes, and all that. But I just want to get in here and see what we got. And you're probably wondering, well, what are you going to do for a wheel bearing? Well, I have this used one that I've kept perfectly good condition. I replaced 2 wheel bearings, one in front of a vehicle. One was good, this one was, the other one was bad, this one was good, so I kept it, even got a good ABS sensor. So we're just going to use this. This is why I keep a lot of stuff. And this will help us out tremendously. You can still buy 2 of these on eBay from dealers for about 50 bucks. So do a lot of research before you go to buy parts, because you can save a lot of money if you have a couple of days or so to spare. So we'll clean this up and eventually get it on there. All right, so after about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, we got all this stuff disassembled. The time-consuming stuff is like the ABS wire. You gotta get this out of the way. Use a little socket to get some of this brake line stuff out of the way, wires and stuff, and take out the 3 bolts here on the hub. And now and there it is. And don't forget to put your plate on when you're going to put your hub back on. Put that on first. And there's our wheel bearing. Let's see. Doesn't feel anything, but it does have a little play-o in it. Not a lot, but there's just a little bit there. So I'll take it in the garage and just verify it. But really, the only thing we got to do is knock this bottom bolt out on the bottom of the ball joint here. hit this with a hammer and go up on top and get the top ball joint loosened up. Take this spindle assembly off and we'll check these ball joints here. I mean, they could be bad. I don't know. We'll find out. But anyway, that's off. Alright, so here's what I concluded. This is the one we just took off. This thing spins so easy. Look at that. If I just kind of shake it there a little bit, boy, you really can't even see that play. But when the wheel's on there and you have a lot of torque on it, that's when you can feel it now. One, I know it's good. This one's hard to turn. Has a lot, well, it has a lot of resistance on it. So I know this one's good. And also, you can see the seal has been leaking oil a little bit here on the one that was on the vehicle. So we'll put this on, and all I have to do is bolt this on, put the wheel back on it, and shake it, and I'll know right away if the play is gone. So there is that. This is why I always keep all my used parts, because you never know. All right, another 10 minutes. We got everything, all the bolts here ready to come out. I got my big hammer here. We're going to hit this, knock this down. And also I got the bottom bolt on the bottom ball joint here loose. But on the top, I did find that this upper ball joint is bad because I can feel it. And it's got play in it right there. See that? Hear that? So now it's a good thing we're taking this apart. So now I'll go ahead and see if we can get this tie rod in off here. Now this big hammer I got, it likes to fly off of this handle, and I've got it on there as good as I can get it. But all right, well, that worked out pretty good. And wow, that thing's really loose now. I mean, you can use a set of those spreaders or whatever, but a big hammer works pretty good. Check your tie rod ends. They feel really good. I did go ahead and loosen this nut up here in case I have to do any adjustments as the wind blows here. Stop, wind, stop. And that way, if I want to do an alignment, I can kind of do this myself. But these bolts here, sometimes these nuts, locking nuts, they get so rusted on these tie rod ends here, it's hard to get them off. So grease them up. Use a big old, actually what I did, I used a pipe wrench. Give you a little tip here on here. I got the pipe wrench on here a certain way, then I took this bar like this, got it behind the frame here and kind of wedged it and give me a little leverage. If your car's up high enough, you could probably just get another break it loose, but just so you know. All right, so let's see what we got now. All right, let's get this out. Put that off the side. Now we'll go ahead and get this out. If you're going to do this job, both sides, if you're going to replace wheel bearings or whatever, or upper and lower ball joints, plan on the whole day. Take your time, don't get in a hurry, the job will be a lot more, enjoyment. You're probably going to save yourself close to $800. So there is that. Now let's see if this will. It'll come right out of there. Good. All right, so there's that. And now on the bottom here, let me just kind of set this off like that. Now for the bottom ball joint, a lot of times if you just kind of hit it, it'll just come off. And there we go. And yeah, both of these ball joints are not the world's best. This one here, I'm moving it way too easy. And the top one, and you got the top one, that just moves way too easy, and it's got a little bit of play in it. So it's a good thing we're doing this. Hey, let me know where you're watching from right now. All right, so on this top ball joint here, we got this clip. Now, this is to each their own. I'm just going to take a hammer and we're going to kind of knock this out. Kind of a big hammer. And that took, what, 23 seconds? So there's our old ball joint, and I checked the new ball joint that we have over here. Now it looks like we got the right ones. All right, and pretty much the same thing. And you can see where our clips go on there, and looks identical. So we're off to a good start. Looks like we got some good parts here. So let's get this bottom one out. All right, so we're on the driver's side on the lower ball joint, and sometimes you can just knock these out with a big hammer. These here on this 2006, these ears are bent over, so you have to take a chisel, kind of knock them in, or just take your take a grinding wheel like this and just go in here and smooth this all the way down. Now I've hit this a bunch of times. It doesn't want to come out, so obviously You gotta bring out our toolkit here. Now you can get these on eBay for less than $100. This thing's about 2 years old, and it's great. They have big ones, they have medium-sized ones, and sometimes if you have loose sockets laying around in the house, it will help you out to kind of, you know, get certain sockets over certain bolts, and it'll help you get these out. So these kits work pretty good. So obviously you're going to probably have to have one of these, because this is really the only ball joint that's hard to get out, and I've got it resting up there pretty good under the lower control arm. So hitting this, it's solid. It's not really wanting to come out. So we'll see what we can do here with our kit. There we go. I'll tell you, the lower ball joint, it can be a pain. So we got it pretty much started there. Gonna do is force it the rest of the way out. And usually if you take the hammer and tap on it, the pressure will shove it the rest of the way through. So we might be able to knock it the rest of the way out with a big hammer here. Now in this here, Trailblazer has their own bottom piece here that they have for this, because all you have is these two ears here for anything to right up on, and this is kind of cut where it'll do that. So you got to make sure that's kind of centered, because it'll try to slide off on one side. And I got this piece on there like that on the bottom. So see if we can knock the rest of the way out. And a lot of times you just got to get creative with what you got, you know. So pressure's back on it. There we go. You see how it kind of moves. Doesn't have to go that far. There we go. So I got a big socket up on top, and kind of set up like this. And I got the ball joint going through it, and this kind of goes over it and all that. Now, if you had a big socket, or you can, you know, once this starts going down into the hole here, you can probably put a big socket in here to keep it from moving around, and stick this in the center, and that would keep this from moving around like that. So, you know, you can just do what you want. But anyway, hit out. Don't give up. These lower ones are a little tough to get. So, looks like we've got the hardest part pretty much done. Alright guys, not gonna lie, it took half hour to get that up in there, because I had to get this ball joint straight. You can see it's just about flush. I'm gonna tighten it down a little bit more. Tap on it just to kind of help it seat there, and I think we're in. So now the one thing is, I did have to take off the boot here in order to get this down through. I didn't want to tear this boot up, so you have to take the boot off. But you can re-grease it, and pull this out. Take it off. And there's our cap, and up here's our place where we put our clip. So it worked out perfectly. So, all right. Oh, it's nice and tight. I like it like that. All right, so the boot is back on. You kind of gotta be careful not to tear it. There's a little clip inside this rubber, and it goes on there like that. So that is on. All right, I'm not gonna lie, that was a little troublesome. It took me a half hour to get that in there, because I couldn't get it to go straight. And now it looks like it's all the way in. I even took sandpaper and tried to clean it out, but I think we got it pretty straight. Yeah, you're going to have to take the boot off too on this one, but getting that straight in there sometimes can be a little bit of a headache. But it did go in straight, and our grease fitting should fit in there pretty good. So there was that. And when I realized the key to get this in straight, to go in there, you have to use something like this in that kit, and it will set flush on there like that. I tried to use something, I don't know, kind of like this, Let me find the right one here. Yeah, kind of like this, and it kept going off to the side, so this is pretty flush and flat, so it helped it to go straight on there. Yeah, you may have to take your hammer and kind of tap a little bit and help it up. That's how I did it. Alright, so we got it all back together here. Everything's tight and concatenated and everything. Now, I'm thinking, you know, I think maybe this upper ball joint on this side we, you know, said earlier that was bad when I was shaking the wheel. I thought it was in this wheel bearing. I'm thinking maybe the wheel bearing, maybe it's okay. Maybe that noise was up here, that, you know, shaking was up on the top. So I think I'm going to stick the old wheel bearing back on just temporarily and bolt the wheel on real quick and shake it and see if it's still there. If not, we'll use the other wheel bearing, but I think that might have been the issue. Alright, so we got the wheel back on, and I didn't even bother putting the nut on. In theory, it should be tight. Well, we'll see. Oh yeah. So we don't have that noise now. So that upper ball joint was actually bad. So this bearing is actually good. So we'll just keep it back on here since I know the ABS sensor is okay. Alright, so no more play. Yay! I like it when a plan comes together. Alright, everything is done. Everything is back together, and it is tight. So I am happy I found that. That is going to save us a lot of problems down the road. It should run for a very long time. Alright, it's the next day, and like I said earlier in the video, give yourself a whole day. Well, if you start late in the day, you might want to give yourself 2 days. I'm old and I'm slow now, so not as fast as I used to be. But this side is tore off. Got all this off. The upper ball joint, yeah, it wasn't the greatest thing in the world. I can actually move it around with one finger. There you can see how loose that is. And the thing I wanted to show you on this side is, in 2006 is when they started putting these ball joints in, and they flare the top of them. The 2002 to 2005, they just have a clip up here that you take off and knock out, I believe. And I also think the Explorers are the same way, but this one here is, you know, you got two options. You can try to take a chisel and bend these little ears back in here, or just take a grinder and smooth this down to the knuckle. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of smooth this down, and that's all I have to do. Then we can start putting these new ball joints in, and everything else here is in good shape. I even got the nut loose on the tie rod in there to make my adjustment, because this side was out just maybe a 1/4 of an inch, but that's something down the road I'll take care of. Other than that, we'll go ahead and start knocking this ball joint out. And it's going to be a tough one. You can see how thick this is, and there's a big ball joint. They weren't fooling around when they put these in on these 06 Trailblazers, and you can see this one's it's kind of loose too. It shouldn't be moving like that, so it's a good thing we're doing all this. So we'll be back here in a little bit once we just about get this out and let you know how many fingers I've broken. And before we do that, see how I got this smooth clear down. That should get it come out a little bit easier. Alright, now let's go ahead and get it out. Alright, top one's on. It went in fairly easy. And I got the clip on. I actually used my trailer over there. Kind of stuck that in kind of in front of it, so it would give me some leverage, because I'm by myself. But if you can get this where it's not moving around, you can really torque this, get this in there and tighten it down with that ratchet and all that. And this one here, I didn't catch it on camera, but it did come out. I got a lot of pressure on this thing, and it almost looks like it's going to break there. But just take your hammer and keep hitting this a little bit, and it'll go bam, it'll break loose. And you can see it finally broke loose, just like the other side. So this here, you know, make sure you have a brake bar. But hard part's done now. Once it gets going, it usually just comes out fairly easy. So yeah, it's patience. You gotta have a lot of it. There's that. Yeah, that one's bad too. So I'm glad I'm changing these out, and you can see just how thick that is. That's almost an inch. It's in there, so there you go. Alright, before we actually do that, you want to see something depressing? So much pressure on that bottom ball joint. Look at that, it bent that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to straighten that out, because that goes right here. Wow. So just be aware of that. That's, well, we'll try to straighten it out later. I got a press in there. Oh boy. Also, one more thing I think you could probably do that might actually help you out is taking some MAP gas, a little propane torch. Probably MAP gas would be better, and they're pretty cheap nowadays. You get them for like 40 bucks, the whole kit and all. Heat this up on the outside. That might let that expand, and you might be able to knock this out. I should have tried that, but that's something you can try if you're worried about breaking your tool. But yeah, try some heat. Let me know in the comment section if it actually worked for you. That way we can actually help other people in this situation trying to fix their lower ball joints on the 06 Trailblazers. Alright, so we got the bottom one started there. Kind of got my pieces right. And now I'll do this on a time lapse. You can watch me put this in. Or watch it slowly go in. Alright, we're just about in, but I'm glad I had my Wheaties. Alright, she's all the way in. One more tug, and now let's take it out. And I'll show you my setup here before I take it clear apart. And kind of like that. Back the camera up just a little bit for you. Oops. Had that on there like that. Of course, you got to take this boot off because there's no way you can get something on here because that boot goes clear on the outside of this upper lip. And that on top, and we have plenty of room here for our keeper up on the top. And also, I was able to pretty much straighten this back out. It's pretty good. I'll tinker with it later. It's soft metal. It's not real strong, but I was able to bend mostly back. And actually, I can adjust it now. When I bend it, they go over these ears on each side of this just right. Kind of like that. And here's another tip on this bottom boot here. When you want to put that back on, I actually found one of the pieces in my toolkit that actually fit in there perfectly. It's just right size to go over that bottom lip and push it back up on there without damaging. Just kind of tap it up in there because the bottom ones are kind of hard to get on there. And you can do the same thing with the top, but I didn't find anything in the toolbox that would fit on the top one, but I just kind of got a socket for that. Alright everyone, after about an hour she's all back together. Let's take her for a spin. Alright everyone, she's running great. About 70 and I can pretty much let go of the steering wheel here and it's pretty much straight down the highway. I gotta make a little adjustment on the tie rod in there, but it doesn't sway no more when I cross over like the uneven places in the road. It's nice and sturdy, nice and straight. Boy, you wouldn't think that little bit of play would cause the wheel to feel like that when you're steering it, but nevertheless, it took care of it. So usually if you're going to replace everything, replace something, you might as well just replace everything, make it worth your while. So I'm really happy that worked out. So there you go. Hopefully this will help somebody out. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and until my next video, guys, I will see you later.